information online. But it's not as complex as, say, starting a unique, compelling search engine, for example. So I was confused by that. And so I talked with the founders of most of the previous companies that tried to do what we're doing. And I asked, what mistakes did you make? Why do you think that you didn't reach success? And that was very informative. We learned all these reasons why previous companies had failed. They didn't focus sufficiently on businesses, which in our area have an incentive to market our service on our behalf because they can bring their populations in. For example, I can announce we have signed an agreement with Stanford's Peer Counseling Center. We will be serving 20,000 Stanford students. About 10% of the Stanford student population goes to counseling. So Stanford's Peer Counseling Center has an incentive to market us for us. If you try and go directly to Stanford students, there's no in-between to market you. And many of these organizations will pay you for delivering the service. So it's kind of, they'll market you and then they'll pay you.
That's a good deal.
It's a good deal. Right? Now, the trade-off is you have a sales cycle. That's maybe 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
But I think that's one that's worth taking on. That was another thing, is that previous companies had not been sufficiently capitalized. A lot of them were clinician-founded and not technologist-founded. And there have been some market enablers, like the Healthcare Reform Bill, the Mental Health Parity Act, other things that are stimulating this kind of idea. So I think the timing for this is right now.
Okay. So there must have been challenges along the way from the concept to where you are now. Can you talk about some of the challenges and how you overcame them?
Yeah. Well, I think it is hard to get by on a shoestring budget. It's fun. It can feel like a pirate ship sometimes, but there are definitely cases where we collectively were saying, gosh, if we had just had 50,000 more, look how much more we could deliver. And I still think that's the case. We have tried to be really cost efficient. I think in healthcare, it's not viral. Particularly in mental health, we're antiviral. People don't want to talk about going to a counselor or therapist. We're better now about stigma today than we were, say, 50 years ago, but it's still a challenge. And that's one reason that we are focusing a bit more on selling to businesses. Again, the health plans, for example, that would pitch us to their populations. We have Breakthrough.com for the direct-to-consumer channel, but that will take some time to grow out. And that was something that I had to accept early on, that I was not going to be working on the next version of Twitter that's going to reach 1 million users in a year. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are pursuing those ideas that can grow virally but are clones of other companies. We wanted to build something valuable, something with a business model, which I think is now back in vogue, fortunately. And when I looked at all the traits that I wanted in an idea, this hit a lot of them. But I accepted that there were going to be challenges, like we were going to do a sales cycle. We were going to be in an antiviral market. It was going to take a few years to get to where we wanted to go. And I was comfortable with that. Even though I generate lots of ideas, I was comfortable that this is an idea that I thought I would be waking up 5 years from now and still excited to do.
So when you started this, did you think it would be a viral market? Because that is probably the most common marketing strategy that I see from the entrepreneurs in the Web 2.0 or next generation internet space. Oh, it'll go viral.
Yeah.
And you have to make things go viral for a start. That doesn't happen naturally. And you've now got an antiviral one.
Right.
If you've got, and you say you have a consumer component to it, so direct to the consumer side, how does the consumer even get to know that you exist? Right.
Well, that's why I think that the business to consumer application in our case will grow slower. And you can do typical marketing techniques. I think it's important to properly define what viral means, because I think it's become a misused term. The original definition, I think the more useful definition of viral marketing, is using the product or service inherently markets it to other people.
Yes.
And the canonical example is Hotmail. By using Hotmail, they had a little signature at the bottom of the Hotmail email that said, sign up for your free Hotmail account today, something like that. So you could not use Hotmail without marketing it to other people. Then there's PayPal is another example, where when you sent a PayPal payment to someone, if they were not signed up with PayPal, they had to sign up for PayPal in order to use the service. And that would be considered an even stronger version of virality, because you've got money waiting versus just exposure viral marketing, where Hotmail, I might see it, but I don't have to sign up for Hotmail in order to read your message. That would be a bad marketing technique. So we understood that virality, for the most part, was not something we were going to be able to bake into our product properly, with one exception, actually, and it's one I'm very excited about, which is group counseling. So in about 2 months, we're going to launch HD group counseling on the site. Well, we've already talked with people who want to run AA-style another style group counseling sessions. It could be a provider, or it could be one person who might have a condition that wants to bring in an existing group or other people that they know. So they might come and just join a group, and that's fine. But if I already lead, say, an AA group, and I want to see the people in my group more often because we're all busy, this could be a good way for me to bring my group onto the site. So you can consider it maybe word of mouth. I don't know if it's viral because in order to do the service, I need to join the site. But that's one of the few ways. Otherwise, I think it is word of mouth. But I think, again, going to the organizations, like, for example, we are about 75% of the way to a signed contract with the largest health plan in the country, because they know they want to get into telemedicine. They have 43 million patients. So if they sign on, not only are they going to pay us, they're going to market us to 43 million patients. That's great version marketing. It's going to be, that can get to 1 million users faster than a lot of consumer apps would, even though they're viral.
Okay. So going back to the service a little bit that you do. So you saw a need. You had the experience from your past internet experience to say, okay, we can deliver something over the internet. How is this actually delivered to a user? So let's say I'm feeling despair, I'm despondent or something, and I might go to my local Kaiser or something.
Right.
What's the difference in coming to your website?
Sure. Right. Well, so I can describe the experience, but I think it's worth mentioning up front. We don't see this as a replacement for in-person counseling, even though there's actually 30 years of research that shows that telemedicine and distance counseling is as effective as in-person, which was actually a bit counterintuitive to me beforehand. I was actually a bit skeptical. Will this really work? 'Cause I didn't want to be in the business of selling something that isn't work. So I went through all the research and found that it does indeed work as well, particularly in mental health, because again, the communication is the treatment a lot of the time. So we wanted to try and bring as much of the in-person experience we could while enhancing while we could online. For example, offering anonymity for those providers that were comfortable with that and those clients that wanted it. So, and I would say second, online I think is best for those people who don't have the time, the money, the ability, or the will to do in-person. We think if people have the time, money, and ability, and will, in-person is generally best, but a lot of people don't. And so rather than say, no, you have to come in person, and if you don't have those 4 things, you're not going to get care, we'd rather say, well, here's a intermediary solution, which can work just as well as in person, and maybe is a gateway for you to get in-person help. So what is this experience like? People come to Breakthrough.com or to a private label site that Breakthrough.com is powering. They can search for a provider. They don't have to sign up for an account at that stage. They can filter on a variety of criteria by specialty, gender, price range, location, and there are these profiles for every provider that's signed up that give a lot more information than you can get in the Yellow Pages or Yelp. You can see a video introduction to get a sense of what is my counselor going to be like without having to pay the $100 or $120 an hour you might pay in a retail situation and realize, no, the fit isn't quite there. We have the rates, the mediums that providers offer, a full description of their summary, and so on. And it's great for the providers because a lot of providers are not the most tech savvy, so this is a way for them to put up a free website. So once a client finds the right provider for them, they can schedule an appointment, have the appointment, and then they can follow up in person or continue to see each other online via video or phone or email or chat. It's up to them.
Okay, so I could have a service, I could have somebody who wants to work with me based out of Oregon.
Yeah.
I need not have to leave the comfort of my own home, and I could do it with video chat and other things to have that there.
Yes, there's one important qualification, and again, this goes back to what I think previous companies have done wrong. One, there are several companies out there that do not restrict providers on a license basis. So there's this concept of cross-border counseling, meaning the provider is not licensed in the client state. I won't get too deep into the legal issues there. It looks like that would not be a problem according to law, but it's kind of a gray area. And so we had this interesting internal question of, okay, no provider has seemed to be successfully litigated against by practicing across states, but do we want providers to take that risk? And we eventually decided, it was a hard decision, no, we're going to, for Breakthrough.com, say that providers must be licensed in the client state. And it's just unfortunately where healthcare law is today. I fully expect somewhere between 3, 5, 7 years from now that the federal government and state governments will see that there's a lot of benefit to saying that a patient can see a provider anywhere in the country, maybe anywhere in the world, because it's so deepens the pool that patients can see. But in the meantime, we don't want providers to feel that they need to take a risk in order to join our service. So we say providers must be licensed in the client state for Breakthrough.com. And then organizations that buy our technology can make a decision whether or not that's where they want to be or not. So it does limit the pool of providers that, say, someone in California could see, but a provider can always get licensed in California, and that's actually what a lot of providers do, is they get licensed in multiple states, generally larger states, and then can see people anywhere. So telemedicine is absolutely legal in all 50 states. And another thing that's exciting is that the reimbursement is starting to come, and that's another key market enabler that we saw. So we think that the wrong strategy is to require patients to spend and fully out of pocket. We actually integrate with insurance. So if you have an insurance and your insurance is in a certain state that requires reimbursement or has said they will reimburse on counseling, which is increasingly happening, then you can pay your usual copay or maybe nothing at all. Like Stanford students, they have their counseling covered for by the Peer Counseling Center, so they can come for free. That's a huge difference from asking someone for $100 an hour.
So it sounds like you've got a model that could be replicated across other areas. Do you have any plans to replicate once you've, more consolidated your advantages here?
Other plans for other types of service? Yeah, we are looking at coaching, for example, which you can consider counseling, bringing someone from a suboptimal state, some condition to feeling normal, and coaching you might be defined as bringing someone from feeling normal to an optimal condition, really trying to be the best dad they can be or best executive or so on. So I think coaching is very interesting, but I think a key thing with startups is really focusing, and we would rather be a leader in the fields that we've chosen than get scattered, because it can be very easy, especially if you're in a promising field like we are, to want to do lots of things simultaneously, and we try to stay focused. So I think coaching is interesting. There are other medical fields we can eventually use the technology for, but therapy is a $21 billion market, and there's a wide expectation that a lot of that is going to happen remotely in the near future. So I'm satisfied with our business potential where it is right now.
Okay. There's a lot more we could talk about. Unfortunately, we're beginning to run out of time. So are there any last words of wisdom you'd care to offer the entrepreneurs out there watching the show?
Yeah, I think this is a great job for people who are driven and want to make a difference. I think a lot of entrepreneurs can get caught up in the money that you can make, and there is a lot of money that you can make, but I think this is a great way to do what you love. It doesn't feel like work most days.
That's terrific. Mark, thank you very much indeed for your time. Do appreciate it.
Sure.
So it's thanks again to Mark for being on the show, and it's good night from the Silicon Valley Entrepreneur, and I look forward to seeing you all again next month. Thanks and good night.